Welcome to the Epcotian Adventure,
a podcast where we'll talk about all things Disney, but we're Epcot-centered.
including tips and tricks, festivals and favorites, and the very latest in our rankings and reviews.
But we're still old enough to remember when the future began, October 1st, 1982.
This is episode 50, Back to Basics, Why Epcot Should Be a Part of Your Trip to Walt Disney World.
Or, it's our favorite park for a reason. Let us tell you why.
So now, please remain seated, keeping your hands, arms, feet, and legs inside the podcast as we embark on our Epcotian adventure. Howdy, folks, and welcome to the Epcotian Adventure. I'm Rod.
And I'm Sue.
And this is... Episode 50. Let's hear it from the fans. Hooray! All right, great.
Thanks, guys.
Episode 50. Wow. I mean, that's a big deal, really.
It is a big deal.
I mean, we've been doing this for over a year now. Had no idea. At first, we were going to do this every 2 weeks, and it became every week. So episode 50 would have been like year 3 had we gone that original
That's math
plan.
I won't do right now. But yeah, it would have taken us a while, and now it's like, here it is.
Crazy.
A year later.
Crazy time. Anyway.
I'm proud of us.
I am too. We're going to talk about, like we discussed in the original episodes, things to do at Epcot and how to pack for Epcot and all that. We're going back to the basics with this, and that's actually the title of this new series, Back to Basics. And we're going to discuss why Epcot should be part of your trip to Walt Disney World.
Yeah, so for this series, we're not going to do a bunch of episodes in a row in this series. We're just going to sprinkle them in, but we want to get back to some basics. So how do you plan a trip? How do you start with even knowing what is at each park? Why should you include the parks? We're going to do one for each of the parks. We're going to do one for Disney Springs. Just basically telling you what it is and whether or not it's for your group. We want you to be able to navigate your first time to Epcot very successfully. Or if you haven't been in a few years, we want you to be able to know what's there, what's waiting for you.
Yeah, if you haven't been to Epcot in the last 10 years, you're not going to recognize the old girl. She's changed a lot.
It's true.
Just like a Hollywood star in the 80s, she's had a lot of work done.
Barely recognizable. But it's so good. Like, they've made some really, really good changes. So we do want to make sure we're highlighting those. We're going to talk about all the things that we love about Epcot, which we've mentioned, of course, in previous episodes. We have episodes on Epcot must-dos and our top rankings on attractions at Epcot, snacks at Epcot. So all of those are already available to you. We're not going to rehash those, but we want to make sure that you have all the information that you need in order to actually plan a trip.
Right, so this is going to be an Epcot-centered episode, meaning that we're going to really discuss not how to plan a trip to Disney World so much as just Epcot as part of your trip. So if you're unfamiliar, if you're new to the Epcotian Adventure or to Walt Disney World, Epcot is Walt Disney World's second park. It opened back in 1982 and originally was what was considered an edutainment park. There were actually no characters at Epcot when they first opened, aside from opening day where Mickey showed up and then disappeared until a little later when Imagineering opened up and you had Dreamfinder and Figment.
Figment is now sort of the icon of the park.
Yeah.
Kind of unofficially.
Part of every festival now. He's all the merchandising. But thank heavens, Mickey and the Fab Five and everybody else, all the princesses are there now.
Oh yeah, there's tons of IP now, but Figment still is sort of the main guy. Some people love him, some people don't understand him because they weren't around in the 80s, so they don't really get what the hype is about. But that's okay. I mean, he's the purple dragon that you see. He's got
2 tiny wings.
Eyes big and yellow.
Horns of a steer.
But a lovable fellow.
So when Epcot first opened, it was made up of pavilions. It was going to be Future World with several pavilions hosted by major corporate sponsorship.
Which was a thing at Disney parks in general.
Right, so that's all completely changed. It's become more of a general theme park now, but it still has World Showcase with the World Pavilions, country pavilions.
There's 11 countries represented,
mm-hmm.
and there's room for some expansion. We'll get to those as we go through.
Mm-hmm.
But first, before we break into this, I want to know, we've said multiple times that Epcot is our favorite park. We named our podcast after it, Epcotian Adventure. We are claiming to be Epcotian. We are
Epcot centered.
And Epcot centered. So I need to know, what is your favorite part of Epcot?
Yeah, please tell us.
No, I want to know yours.
No, I was asking the dog. Because she hears this all the time.
She does.
My favorite part of Epcot, that's a really good question, Sue. My favorite part of Epcot still is walking in under Spaceship Earth. There's just something calming to me about walking in and just hearing the Epcot entrance music and feeling the breeze coming through underneath Spaceship Earth, because it's this natural wind tunnel, which is unusual in Florida because it gets so bloody hot. It's a comfort food for me almost. It's just, I take it in almost like I'm eating macaroni and cheese. it becomes something that I just live to do.
And giving advice to someone who is planning their very first trip there, what would you recommend as your number one thing to do at Epcot?
Number one thing to do in your planning for Epcot is going to be do your research.
No. A tangible thing.
What one thing they can't miss?
What one thing is the one thing that you have to do?
I think the most quintessential thing that is Epcot is Spaceship Earth. It's the very first thing you walk into, but it's still one of the original pavilions from the original Epcot Center. It's the history of communication. It's had a whole myriad of, AT&T and Siemens and other sponsorships. So there's been some changes to the show.
And 4 different narrators.
But it still feels like opening day Epcot to me. It's one of the last few attractions, aside from maybe Living with the Land, that has that original Epcot feel and flavor and smell and just, it's Epcotian.
It is so Epcotian.
What about you? What would you be telling people is the one thing they cannot miss at Epcot?
Spaceship Earth is always my go-to. It's how we end every trip at Epcot. We always end with Spaceship Earth because it is quintessentially Epcot. It's the thing I want to leave with the flavor of it in my mouth when we leave. That is the thing I want to walk away with. But since you have covered Spaceship Earth, I'm going to say the other one that you mentioned, which is Living with the Land. And the reason for that is because it is quintessential opening day Epcot. There's very little of that left. And that to me is one of we're both choosing very slow moving rides. There is no thrill factor here, but they are still just wonderfully, wonderfully Epcot. And Living with the Land is a slow moving boat ride. There's no height requirement. It's something the whole family can do. It's edutainment at its best. You are going through greenhouses, learning how they grow plants. I mean, how boring does that sound? And yet it is so wonderful. And again, the sights and the smells and the sounds, everything just comes together in this beautiful, beautiful way that is so relaxing. And it's just Epcotian. Yeah,
it's one of the few places, too. You'll hear people talk about pirate water from Magic Kingdom, the smell of the water at Pirates of the Caribbean. Believe it or not, Living with the Land has the same smell. And there's a place where the waterfalls come in right before you look up and see the rotating restaurant that has that smell. It's just, I love it.
It's so good.
Now, again, 2 things that Sue and I have mentioned here are from the old Epcot. We're going to go through now and kind of tell you what is new at Epcot and what is the best thing for you if you're taking your kids or if you're taking teens or if you're like us and it's just adults only. So let's look at some of the things that Epcot has that is best for kids.
Yes, that is a great place to start. And I think the number one thing to me is that because Epcot has added so much IP, intellectual property, they have brought in characters. So I'm going to say the very number one thing to do with your kids, especially if you have little girls, but it could be any little kid would enjoy this, but doing a breakfast at Akershus, which is the restaurant in Norway. They do a character breakfast where you will meet literally every princess.
Yeah, it's Princess Palooza.
It really is. There's seriously like 6 or 7 of them that come through. It's not always the same ones, but like 6 or 7 princesses will come through and they stop and chat. You can do pictures. You can do autographs. They'll ask you how you're enjoying the breakfast. Like you can have full-on conversations with them. And for a small child, this is the best bang for your buck for meeting characters. You don't have to wait in the lines. You don't have to do the expensive meal in the castle at Disney World, where you'll have a lesser princess experience than this one is. So some of the food might be a little out there. The kids menu is going to be a kids menu, but the adults menu is a little Norwegian. So take a look at that first. Make sure it's something that your kid will even eat, or that you will. But if it is, even remotely, I would highly recommend taking your kids to that character breakfast and starting off your Epcot day in a magical, magical way.
Another option, if you would rather have a more traditional breakfast with Mickey, Minnie, Chip, and Dale, you can go to the Garden Grill in the Land Pavilion in World Nature. That is a little more traditional in that it's more of the meat and potatoes and eggs. And
really yummy cinnamon bread.
And it's in a rotating restaurant that overlooks some of the scenes from Living with the Land.
And Mickey and all of his pals, it's the Fab Five plus Chip and Dale, and they have their cute little farmer outfits on.
Mickey in his overalls is so cute.
So cute.
But the Chip and Dale
they always steal the show.
Anytime you have Chip and Dale, they steal the show. They really
It's true. But that is a great, great option. I'm so glad you brought that up, because that is such a fun thing. And again, you're going to eat breakfast anyway. You might as well make it a magical experience for the kids. So if you have kids, that is the number one thing that I would recommend, is doing a character breakfast.
And start off the kids with some protein that way. Not a bunch of sugar, not a bunch of popcorn. Get them a good breakfast as you're walking in the park. So after you fed the kids, there are plenty of meet and greets within the parks for the characters. Right now you can meet Mickey over at and this is for the short term, you can meet Mickey over at the Imagination Pavilion. Starting very shortly, though, you'll see a brand new area in World Celebration right behind Spaceship Earth as part of the old Communicore area, and it's called Communicore Hall. It will be used for additional festival things as well. We'll talk about those more in just a little bit. But if you've got kids that want to meet not only the princesses, but the animals, the characters, the IP of Disney, as we like to call it, they're spread out all around the park. The big one right now that's brand new is you can now meet Figment, even though he's about
Giant.
8 feet tall and a walking nightmare. I still love you, Figment, but oh my heavens.
He's adorable and purple, and he's cuddly.
And huge. Yeah, he's like the size of Chewbacca. So,
I'm not sure why they went that route. But
if you want to meet Figment, go over to the Imagination Pavilion, and you can meet him there, along with Joy from Inside Out.
And sometimes she's joined by Sadness. We've seen them both there together.
That's just sad.
She's a good character, despite her name. But, as to jump on what Rod was saying, characters are everywhere. If that's something that your kid is into, you can meet Snow White in Germany. You can meet Mulan in China. You can meet Anna and Elsa in Norway. You can meet Jasmine in Morocco. There are characters everywhere.
Belle in France, Mary Poppins in the UK,
sometimes
Alice in the UK.
Pooh. Winnie the Pooh is in the UK. He's in Christopher Robin's bedroom, which just reopened since the closure, and I need to go see this because I haven't seen him in there yet, and I think I'm probably going to cry. So there's that.
So don't hesitate to bring your kids to Epcot. I know in the past it has always had this reputation as an adults-only park because of the fact that it sells alcohol, and it has these festivals that are food and wine and concert-based. Don't let that dissuade you from taking your smalls. They really will enjoy Epcot. Imagination is one of the greatest attractions for your kids. It's got that, ew, gross moment that they just love. The Living Seas has now become the Seas with Nemo and Friends and has a ride-through attraction with Nemo and Dory. And
again, no height requirement on that one.
Yes.
Good family
very
ride.
Good point. If your kids are tall enough, Soarin' is a great first thrill ride for them at the Land Pavilion. It's not that scary. It does go up 20, 30 feet, but it's video-based and is not
very gentle movement. Nothing that's scary at all.
Yeah, it's a great first attraction. Back in World Showcase, there's a sing-along with Belle for Beauty and the Beast and the France Pavilion.
Yes, and don't forget, you can also ride Frozen Ever After in Norway. Sometimes there's a long queue. We do recommend a Genie Plus moment if you want to do that.
Yeah, it really is one of our favorite attractions even. The water ride is also one that does not have a height requirement, so it's perfect for the smalls all the way down to handhelds.
If you've been on Pirates of the Caribbean, Small World, it's the same sort of boat situation. Little different boat.
One small drop.
But that same idea. Yeah. But there is one small drop, not very scary. You can totally talk them through it. But to get to see Anna and Elsa inviting you to see the summer palace in the snow and Elsa's party, it's a pretty great experience all around. Even the queue is pretty magical.
If your kids are ready for a nap, wander back to the American Adventure and go on the American Adventure show. The 20-minute plus show in the dark, in the air conditioning. Great place for kids to not whine. Please don't take them if they're whiny. Take them if they're tired.
If they're not.
Great place to have them just nap.
Ratatouille is also another fun one if they're ready for a little faster ride. Ratatouille is another great family attraction. It's a trackless dark ride that takes you through the movie Ratatouille. You're shrunk down to the size of a rat, and you get to go through the kitchen and have them try and chase you out through Paris. So it's pretty fun.
It's so fun. And it is also one with no height requirement. So another great one for the smalls. So what about teenagers? I mean,
it's a tough crowd.
That's a tough crowd for Epcot. Actually, Walt Disney World for teenagers is a tough crowd because it's not Universal.
It's true.
It's not Six Flags. It's not even SeaWorld with the big coasters.
Well, and they are associating it with their childhood, which is princes and princesses and pixie dust, and they want to be older than that. They want to gravitate toward the grown-ups, not the kids.
So in the way of thrill rides, you have the brand new, of course, Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind, one of the best roller coasters at Walt Disney World. It follows the Guardians through
a new adventure.
Save the universe.
Yeah,
like
you get
they
to
always
go through
do.
portals and save the universe, but you get to help, so it's pretty fun.
Yeah, it also has a great rockin' 70s and 80s soundtrack for you olders like me. Also next to that is the
Test Track is right there.
Test Track. Which is a faster ride. A lot of people, if you're not familiar with ride systems, will call it a roller coaster, but it's really a powered vehicle ride, and it moves up to 65 miles an hour. It's the fastest attraction at Walt Disney World.
Which is hard to believe for a lot of people. They're going to assume that the coasters are not true.
And then you've got Mission Space. Well, we have a love-hate relationship with that attraction. I love it because I love the ride system. It's a centrifuge-style attraction that spins you around so fast that you think you're weightless. It's actually designed by a company that builds things for NASA for space training.
They had astronauts actually test the ride and claim that it is the closest you will ever experience to being actually weightless.
Yeah, it is amazing. I've been on both the green and the orange side, so there's a very, very mild, I guess you could call it side, which is the green mission, which just takes you around the Earth. And then there's the orange mission, which has warnings every 5 feet that if you have motion sickness or are prone to claustrophobia, that you should not ride. And they are not joking.
It's one of only 2 Disney rides in the world that have barf bags in the vehicles.
Yeah, isn't that lovely?
So just keep that in mind.
So teens love this attraction because it's one of those, I bet you won't do it, I bet you will, I dare you to do it. It's the most intense attraction by far at Epcot, and probably the most intense attraction, I would say, in Orlando.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah, so those are all on what you would say the left side of Epcot. So as you first walk in and see Spaceship Earth, they're on the left side, which is called World Discovery.
And all 3 of those are right in a row. Boom, boom, boom. So that's a great way to, if you want to send your teenagers off on their own for a while, let them experience all the thrill rides all in a row while you go have some coffee at Starbucks. That's a great opportunity.
Oh, there's a Joffrey's location right there, too.
Yes, there is. That's my favorite Joffrey's
location.
Get a
shaken Jamaican. Yay. Now, if you're an older, like me or Sue.
Hey.
Yeah.
Hey. No, it's true.
It's true. Really, for me, Epcot is more about relaxation than it is about high-energy attractions. And that's why I love it. For me, something Epcotian is something with a beautiful score, a great ride, not a fast one, just a great ride, because I love Cosmic Rewind, but I also love Living with the Land and the slow-moving attractions. But something that tells a story that you can repeat. Something that you want to do each time you go. And Epcot is full of those attractions. It's
also deceptive in that you think theme park, you think Disney, you think, oh my gosh, there's people everywhere. But Epcot is huge. It is such a big park. And I say that in a good way because it is so expansive that you never feel, I shouldn't say never, there are busy, crazy busy days. Don't go during holidays. But there are so many opportunities to just feel like you are there with your friends. Like, even if you're there with one or two people, if you're there with a whole group, it feels like you have your own space to meander through. You don't feel like you're in this crush of humanity.
Yeah, for instance, the Magic Kingdom can literally, and I'm using that word correctly this time.
Yes.
Literally fit into the lake at World Showcase. That is amazing to me.
That still doesn't make any sense to me.
It doesn't, but it's true. The walkway around World Showcase is 1.2 miles in circumference, I guess is the best way to put it.
And if you're there as a grown-up, which is the section that we're talking about now, as an adult, whether you've been there before or not, you can spend your entire time in World Showcase and not have any regrets.
Or a day in just Future World, or what I would say World Celebration, World Nature, and World Discovery, and not even get into World Discovery.
It's true. If you are more of an adult who gravitates toward the rides, you can do that front of the park and be perfectly happy. We did that on our last trip, as a matter of fact.
Yeah,
very unusual for us. But what we were saying before as well about World Showcase is this is where grown-ups thrive. It is fun for kids. If you have kids, there's stops at every single one of the 11 countries called KidCot, where there's a little activity that they can do that is geared just towards those littles.
Arts and craftsy kind of thing.
Yes, exactly. Most of them are free. There are some that have a small fee to them because there's a take-home project, but they are geared toward those kids. But if you're not looking for those and you're going with just grown-ups, there's so much to do. The architecture is phenomenal. Just the views of each of the countries is wonderful. The food is all authentic. When they were first built, it was staffed entirely by people from each of those countries. They came over almost as ambassadors to start those countries and start the traditions, get everything tasting right and looking right and greeting you in the language that goes with that country. Now that the closure is over, some of that is starting to come back, and it's really, really neat when you get to walk into Morocco and you have someone who speaks the language, and it's just really neat, who knows the culture. And
yeah, if you don't travel a lot, World Showcase as an adult is actually one of the best ways to get a glimpse of other parts of the world. When you walk into the Mexico Pavilion, which is the first one on the left that you come to, there are things inside in the little stores that they have there that are made in Mexico. You're going to find that in all of the pavilions, of course, too, but Mexico is our neighbor, and we don't seem to get there very often unless you're on a cruise ship, it seems like.
That's true.
Or going to one of those all-inclusive resorts.
Or from California.
Yes, exactly. But being able to walk in and talk to somebody from Mexico and explain why there are Day of the Dead things there and what it means to them as a culture is something you're not going to get at Six Flags or going to a food festival at Busch Gardens or something.
Like, it's a whole different experience.
Yeah, when you walk into the Norway Pavilion next door, it looks a lot like Arendelle, but the store at the end is stocked with things from Norway.
And other parts of Scandinavia have a little representation, but mostly Norway because that's what it is. And it does include Arendelle, even though that is fictional, believe it or not.
Hey, you take that back.
I know. But there's also a bakery there where you can get traditional sweets and sandwiches. And each of the countries has a walk-up and a sit-down. I think all of them do.
I believe all of them except America does, yes.
Yeah, America does not have a sit-down restaurant.
Yeah.
But there's authentic flavors. You can expand your palate. You can try something you've always wanted to try without the airfare. Like, it's a great opportunity to explore. And I know I've said this, but I cannot stress enough how beautiful these pavilions are. They are so they fill up your soul in a way
immersive.
that travel does. Yes. They're immersive, and you just, even the small ones, some of them are so small. Like Canada is tiny. UK should be twice as big. Some of them just aren't very big, but even while you're walking through, while you're looking, stop and look in the shops, walk down the streets, go through the gardens. There's beautiful, beautiful gardens. They're all seasonal. They keep up with everything to do with whatever the festival that's going on is, or whatever the season of the year is. Everything just feels fresh and new and exciting. I can't oversell it.
It's why, as adults, we continue to go back over and over
Yep.
and over again. So continue around World Showcase. You've got China, Germany, Italy, the U.S., Japan, Morocco, France, UK, and Canada. And like we've said with the other pavilions we just talked about, rather than go into each one in detail, take a look, do your research, go online and take a look at the different things that are offered in all of these pavilions. But I guarantee you, as an adult, you are going to be more than fascinated and more than, you're not even educated, you're edutained.
Yes.
As Walt would have said, edutainment at its best. Think of it as a World's Fair, permanent World's Fair, I guess is the best way to put
That's
that.
a great way to look at it. And I think if you are traveling with kids, if you are traveling with teens, I think highlighting some of those things that are unique to those countries, I think you'll be surprised at how they take to that. We first went to Epcot as kids, and I remember being fascinated by Italy and the architecture and looking like you're in the big plaza there, and the completely different style of buildings and the living statues, which aren't a thing anymore, but even the regular statues that are there. It's beautiful. It's stunning. It feels like you are traveling the world.
One thing teens can do is check with their teachers at school to see if they can get extra credit by going in and doing research on the individual world pavilions. This is something that I've seen a lot of, not only homeschool, but actual high schools will do. So if you have some teens that are taking either some history classes or world economics or anything of that nature that might be world-driven, have them check with their teachers and see if they can get some extra credit for actually visiting Epcot and doing some of the like a report on one of the countries while they're there. And
one way to sell that is by saying that you will be able to talk to someone from that country. That's something that's unique. And even, I'm going to throw in too, even if they're not teens yet, if they're still tweens and a little bit of that younger 10, 11, 12 area. When I first went, I was 11, I believe, if I'm doing the math right. I might have been 9. I was in 4th grade. And I'm not going to do the math. I'll let you figure it out. I was in 4th grade. And my teacher from social studies had me do a very similar project, sort of a little broader scale because of my age, but it was still really cool. I still have the little journal that I kept when I was there.
Well, and it gives the youngers something to do. Now,
Yep.
Of course, the kiddos, the little ones aren't going to be doing it, but explaining to them why there's something interesting there, is a good teaching moment also for parents with kids.
And especially if it's something to do with your own family history. If you happen to be from one of these countries, you have history from the UK, you have family history from France, that could be something really cool to walk them through and be like, hey, did you know that Grandpa fought in World War I, or great-grandpa, I guess now, fought in World War I in France, and look at how beautiful this is now. That's, and you can do your own family history as you walk around. There's lots of opportunities, I think, is what we're saying.
What it comes down to is Epcot is more than just a theme park. Epcot really for us is our home park. We continue to go to Epcot because we consider it to be one of the places left on the planet where you can feel everything is in harmony still. That's a hard thing to find right now. Just watching the daily news, going to Epcot, you still feel like Walt felt when he was creating the park. It's a place where people can come together from all around the world, of all ages, all nationalities, and be one.
It's so true. There is this sense of hope when you walk around, that you can stand on one side of the lake in the U.S. and you can look across and you can see the UK, and you can look across and you can see Morocco, and everyone all together. Like, there's just something so, so beautiful about that. Even in a artificial environment, even in a theme park environment, there's still something so real that our souls just cry out for right now.
Yeah.
So, so for us, that's one of the things that keeps bringing us back. And while we're on that, I do want to mention that the nighttime spectacular, their new fireworks show is called Harmonious.
The Symphony of Us.
The Symphony of Us.
And that's one thing that Epcot has done well, is their evening wrap-up does feel like a fantastic ending to a great story.
And yes. And it brings out every bit of what we were just talking about. Every country is represented in song, in lights, in fireworks, with grand spectacular, and you see everyone coming together, and there's just something so, so beautiful and hopeful about it. It's a great experience. From little kids are going to love the spectacle of it. Adults are going to love the message of it. There's just something for everybody. It's not just an adults only park, I think, is our main takeaway we want you to have from this.
Yeah, I agree with you, Sue. It really just is the future. It always has been. Epcot, from the first day, always felt like the future to me, and it still does. And it gives me hope that we as a world can still come back together and be one.
I love that idea, and I love that message so much. It's so important today. And it's a way to do that in a really fun way, too. It's not heavy-handed. It's not over the top. It's just done so, so well.
So, folks, let us know what you think about Epcot. What's your favorite things to do there? What do you do with your kids, your teens, you as an adult? We'd love to know. Put it down in the comments down there.
Absolutely. We always want to know your comments and opinions. We want to know what we missed. What really cool thing have you found to do with your kids? And we're also, just to plug a future episode at some point, we are going to do an episode that is going to encompass all the parks if you're going as a multi-generational family. So something that you can do all together.
Great. So lastly, let's talk about what's changed in the last 10 years. A lot has changed. If you haven't been there since maybe the turn of the century, well, that's more than 10 years.
It sure is. That would be 24 years now.
Well, let's say you haven't been there since turn of the century or in the last 10 years. Well, like you've heard us talk about, the Cosmic Rewind, the Guardians of the Galaxy roller coaster, is where the Energy Pavilion used to be. Health and Life is completely closed. It's just sitting there shining in the sun with its big gold roof. But yeah.
We still have hope for it, though.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And then the one that hurts my heart, Horizons, became Mission Space. Test Track is where World of Motion's been, but that's been a long time ago. You've probably been there since Test Track, but it's changed. It has a very Tron feel now.
And it's about to get another update.
Back to World of Motion. Weird. I mean, it's still going to be Test Track, but very woodsy inside is the way to put it, I guess.
And Imagination has had 3 different overhauls.
Which is just bad, because
it's still
crazy. Not the
crazy.
original, but it's still Figment. The Land Pavilion is the one that's remained the closest to the original.
Yes.
Soarin' has been added to that. And the film has changed to what's called Awesome Planet, which we like to call Tough to Be a Human. It's an environmental film. And then Living Seas is now The Seas with Nemo and Friends.
And also, what used to be Maelstrom in Norway is now Frozen Ever After. So that was a big change, bringing some Disney IP to the parks. Of course, Remy's Ratatouille is... I was going to say Remy's Ratatouille Revenge. That's not right.
That's the new version.
But that's been added to Fran's Pavilion, of course.
I can just see it now. Mr. Tompkins, next time you put out a rat trap, make sure you finish the job. Ratatouille the Revenge.
I like it. I would see that.
Yeah, that'd be a great ride.
But Space 220 was added.
That's
a great
right.
restaurant that we hope gets better. It has wonderful atmosphere.
That's part of Mission Space's complex.
And World Discovery, yeah. Odyssey Pavilion used to be a full-on sit-down restaurant, and it's now Epcot festivals.
But a lot of that's probably going to change, too, with the opening of the new Communicore Hall.
Yes,
So, yeah.
which I was going to say, actually, Communicore Hall will have things to offer for adults, too, because when there's festivals, they're going to have, like, food demonstrations in there. They're going to have live music.
Yeah,
they're going to
second
have
place for concerts.
Yes.
That's fantastic.
So much opportunity is coming to that brand new venue. So keep your eye on that. Whether you're with kids going for the meet and greets or as adults who want to experience the demos. There's lots of stuff for you. Spaceship Earth, of course, has had 4 different narrators over the years.
Yeah, these are things that have not changed that much. Spaceship Earth, Living with the Land, Imagination, American Adventure.
Yes,
those are all
that's
things
still
that
the
if
same.
you're used to the older kind of feel of Epcot, the ones we just talked about, really. But
Well,
even
some
Living
things have just had
Seas.
name changes.
Yeah, like
Like
Living
Electric
Seas, yeah.
Umbrella became Connections Cafe.
And Starbucks now.
And Starbucks. They did do a remodel, of course, to
Sure.
make it look like the modern Epcot, which is like the retro Epcot. So it's a little confusing,
Yeah, retro Epcot is all of a sudden the big thing now in all the merchandising.
which
so
I
it's
love.
really funny. You may come back and go, oh, none of the merch changed. It did, really.
You can even find things again that do say Epcot Center, which just makes my little heart happy because nostalgia. But Mouse Gear, the big store there, became Creations. Same thing. 1 level now. Used to be 2 back in the day.
Depending on how long that was ago, it was Centaurium when it first opened.
Oh my gosh, that's right. Oh, how funny. And of course, the brand new Moana adventure has been added, the Journey of Water.
Yeah, it's a walk-through attraction that, again, if you're looking for a chill day, that's over in World Nature. Love
Beautiful for children. Definitely go through if you have kids, but also go through if you don't, because it'll be a different experience for you if you're an adults-only group, but so good. And then Walt the Dreamer.
Oh, that's right,
The
the
new
statue
was just added, so that's a pretty cool photo op to go get your picture with Walt. But yeah, a lot has changed over the last 20 years,
Yeah.
10, 20 years. So if you have only been to Epcot as a kid, it's time to go back.
It is. Before we go, we'd like to give a big thank you to our social media coordinator, Riley Piper, audio engineers Joey Humphrey and Paul Trett, logo designer Evan Piper, and our theme music composer Jason Patrick Rowan, whose music is licensed through Pond 5. And of course, thank you, Phoenician.
Thank you, Phoenicians. And don't forget to rate, review, like, and subscribe. It really does help other people find us. You can find us on social media, on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. The Epcotian Adventure is a $1,000 brunch production and a proud gold member of D23.
Thanks for joining us today for episode 50 of the Epcotian Adventure. I'm Rod,
And I'm Sue.
and we'll see you in line.
Happy birthday, Andy. Bye.
Make a right and go to... No.
I would say that for the adults.
Oh, good point. We'll come back to that.
Ignore that. Never mind. Don't go there.
Stop that. Reverse it.
That's Phil.